It is Friday, October 23rd, and we are in Genoa. This is a panoramic view.
The street, so it's very comfortable for kids in summer to find the two open gates and not only one.
Our first stop in Genoa was an overlook that you could see the entire city. Genoa was by far the most Italian city we visited. It just looked like Italy. Narrow streets, all kinds of different colors for the buildings, the roofs, and there were just hundreds of churches, just church steeples all over the place. And certainly it looked like a port city. And you could see fishing boats and commercial boats and even cruise ships.
Another view from Genoa. Very bright sunny day, and hopefully I can barely see in the screen, so hopefully this is recording. Carol, Tony, and Tom in Genoa.
You could really see how old Genoa was by the size of the streets. They were really made for horses or small carts, and not made for cars, which really made it very nice for walking. We saw Garibaldi's name all over. He is essentially the father of Italy, and he put together the nation states, and he's by far he's their George Washington. We had a great time walking through the streets. As I said, it really looked and actually sounded like Italy. We could hear music coming out of many of the buildings and side restaurants and cafes. Really amazing. Our first real stop was a bank, and the bank actually had these fresco paintings all over the ceilings and the walls. They allow you to come into the rotundum and take pictures and see the magnificent paintings from the Renaissance.
What used to be a private residence in Genoa. Very ornate. I found the Tomas and the Tony. And who should we have here but Terrell?
Our next stop on the walking tour was essentially an old private residence. Someone who had been in the shipping industry. Genoa was famous for shipping. It was one time one of the richest cities in all of Europe. And this was essentially a garden area. And you can see where water would come out of that urn at one time, and it was really ornate. Again, there was Italian music playing. Really showed you the opulence and the wealth of the people who lived in Genoa back in, say, some 1200 to maybe 1600s. Just an incredibly wealthy city. This is a good view of a really narrow street, and also of a cafe that these kind of stuck out. They were all over the place. You could stop, have coffee, etc. Our next stop was an art museum, and it was really at one time a private residence, but it was the people who owned the house hired a painter from Belgium, a Flemish painter, and all the paintings and all the wall decorations were by a Flemish painter by the name of Van Dyck. This is one of his most famous paintings, painting of Jesus. He did the ceilings, the walls. There were, I would say, 50 to 100 paintings on the walls in frames, etc. And they were all done by this Van Dyck, who at the time was the world's most famous painter and recognized as one of the best painters in the world. So that's why people in Genoa hired him to come there and paint essentially their house. And now it's a museum. Our next stop was a little bit of a tourist stop to buy some souvenirs and also to see the square. There was a beautiful fountain and some opera house behind the fountain where we could stop and take pictures and buy some cheap souvenirs. but it was a nice opportunity to take pictures. I'd also say, since it was a walking tour, we were pretty much ready for a rest at this point. It was a pretty hot day. We were in northern Italy, and it was probably 70 degrees by this time of the day. Renee loved this picture because there were just motorcycles and scooters everywhere. After the fountain, we walked by this old relic or old building on our way to Christopher Columbus's house. This is probably one of my favorite stops on our tour, and you can see it says Christopher Columbus. This is where he lived. It was a very, very small house. It was probably not more than 15 feet wide. You can see just 2 windows wide, and we had a chance to take pictures and see where Christopher Columbus actually lived. Now, the old city of Genoa was guarded by a castle, and this is some of the remnants of the castle. It was in honor, actually, of the Virgin Mary, so there were hundreds of Virgin Mary motifs painted into the walls. And it was a pretty large castle, and the gates were really, really large. Our next stop was a cathedral in Genoa. It was built later in the Renaissance. As you can see, this style where they have dark and white bricks. We'll see this again in Marseille. A very classic Renaissance church. Was really ornate, very beautiful, and huge. We didn't get a chance to go inside because we didn't have time, but it was a really beautiful, beautiful church. One of the best churches I think we've saw on our entire tour. This is how we wrapped up our day in Genoa. We went back. This was kind of a main area right by the ocean. We caught the bus and had a nice leisurely ride back to Savone, which is where we actually docked the boat. I think these are the only pictures of the boats we really have, and unfortunately I don't think this is our ship. I think this is the sister ship, the Fortuna, but an exactly identical replica of the ship we were on. It was a really big ship, very comfortable, had a fantastic time on it. The crew was great. This was actually parked in Savone. Savone was a very modern city, and that's where the ship was parked. We took the bus into Genoa from there, and this is in northern Italy. Where are we?
Get him, camera.
Where are we today?
Genoa.
No, Savone. We went to Genoa today.
Savona.
We're in Savona. We're going to have pizza tonight for dinner.
And Tom and Tony are
imported from America.
sitting on the balcony of the boat.
Yeah, we're going to leave in about 15 or 20 minutes. We're going to head out, and hopefully we're going to see some whales on the way out.
All right, give a wave.
Bye from Savona.
We are now departing from Savone. This is the view from our balcony.
Our excursion in Marseille started off by driving by several of the monuments. This here is actually an old residence for one of the kings, and this is the Turkish Arch. Essentially, they called it the gateway to the Middle East. We didn't get a chance to stop, but Carol got some great pictures through the window of the bus.
It is Saturday the 24th, and we are in France, in the beautiful city of Marseille. And Carol's giving us a wave. It is absolutely gorgeous.
Renee, you should see
beautiful.
there are huge fish. You can
Really?
you can see the fish.
Look at all the countryside. It is gorgeous.
They're as big as the redfish we catch. Our first stop in Marseille gave us a chance to look out over the harbor and see the castle that held at one time the Count of Monte Cristo, where that movie was, or the book was written. There was also a medieval fort in the middle of the harbor. This is the French Riviera. The water was incredibly blue. You could see probably 20, 30 feet down to the bottom. This is a hotel here in yellow. Just really opulent, beautiful, beautiful buildings. And it seemed like the French Riviera. It's exactly what you'd imagine when you say French Riviera. My guess is it's a little expensive to stay in that hotel, but the harbor was full of boats and people and activity. We even saw people swimming. Just a really beautiful area.
The view we often see of Tom, camera in front. Oh, now we got him. Ah, good one.
Our next to last stop in Marseille was at the Notre Dame de Cathedral, essentially. Beautiful church on top of a hill. You'll notice that Tony's not in any of these pictures because there was at least 100 steps, maybe 200 steps, just to get to the entrance to this church. But a mammoth church on top of a hill. The inside actually is not very large.
We are still in Marseille, in France. The name of the cathedral is Pierre Notre Dame. It's beautiful.
These are pictures on the inside of the church. These are all photographs of mariners, of people, fishermen or mariners. This church is the patron saint of fishermen. You can see again, it looks very similar to the church we saw in Genoa in terms of the style, but it really wasn't very big, but very opulent. And we saw the Monsignor who runs the church in his office as we were walking out. So it is an active working church where they still hold service on top of this hill that overlooks the entire city of Marseille. The stained glass was wonderful. This is a picture of the altar, and they had statues all around. The entire ceiling was ornate and painted. Just a beautiful church.
And this is the view of Marseille from the cathedral, from outside the cathedral. Gosh, it's beautiful. Oh, I'm almost to Carol. And there she is, waiting to have her photo done by Tom. Carol standing in front of the cathedral, which is absolutely beautiful. Huge. Unfortunately, I cannot get the entire cathedral in the video shot.
One of the best things about being at the church was the view. We could see essentially 360 degrees around the city of Marseille, see the harbor, see the actual city, and you can see how tightly packed the roads were. It was unbelievable the bus could get in and out, but really, really nice day, great for pictures. And this is a great picture of the steps. This isn't all the steps, this is just one section of steps, but incredible number of steps.
And this is a shot of the cathedral in Marseille.
Did you see Tom up there?
I did see him up there.
Do you know I'm going to get him a collar and leave because he...
Of course, no stop in Marseille or France would be complete without shopping. This was our one chance to kind of have some free time and do shopping. This was the area, and you can see this is where people do. This is where people go to eat. This is where people live, in Marseille, beautiful space. We did also get to see the Cathedral de Marseille. This is another active church, kind of in the city itself.